The next Prime Minister will be a woman. Conservative MPs have selected their two candidates, Theresa May and Andrea Leadsom. Now, 150,000 Conservative members will pick one of them, deciding the future of the party and the country. Just 2 weeks have passed since David Cameron stepped down following the EU referendum result.
Thank you very much.
It has been a bonfire of politics ever since. Nigel Farage resigned from UKIP. The Labour Party imploded, with most of the shadow cabinet resigning. Boris Johnson was betrayed by his Brexit buddy Michael Gove, leaving him to deliver a punchline that fell flat.
That person cannot be me.
After the treachery and the fighting, someone has to unite the party and a divided nation. With the three other contenders, Liam Fox, Stephen Crabb and Michael Gove, out, it's down to May or Leadsom in the battle for number 10.
Leadsom for leader, everybody!
Leadsom for leader!
An impromptu march on Westminster, led by MPs Tim Loughton, Penny Mordaunt and Northern Ireland Secretary Theresa Villiers, all passionate out-campaigners.
What do we want?
Leadsom for leader!
When do we want it?
Now!
Andrea Leadsom has mostly attracted support from Brexiteers. There's no doubt that untangling our relationship with the EU will be the first priority for whoever gets the top job. And Andrea Leadsom made it clear in her speech before the march that this is something she'll relish.
My first task is to show how great our potential is as a nation. Let's banish the pessimists.
The Energy Minister's backers argue that she should head negotiations for Britain's exit because she will see the outcome as positive.
I certainly hope that the next Prime Minister is somebody who did vote to leave because, as she explained today, you need to be optimistic about our future and you need to believe this is a good thing rather than seeing this as a troublesome problem that's in the in-tray that you have to deal with along with 100 other problems as well.
Mrs Leadsom told the audience that free trade was a priority, as was taking control of borders. But how anyone achieves this isn't yet clear.
Andrea Leadsom is the fresh-faced candidate in this race. Her speech was offering lots of hope and lots of optimism, although it was rather light on policy.
It happens that this venue was used for UKIP celebrations on the night of the referendum, and some Conservatives who backed Leadsom were close to Aaron Banks's Leave EU campaign. The UKIP funder has said he wants to bankroll Leadsom's bid for number 10, but the Energy Minister is keen to distance herself from UKIP.
I have absolutely nothing to do with UKIP. Absolutely nothing to do with them. There has been widespread support, I think, because people like to see somebody who is optimistic about the future. I've been talking a lot with colleagues in Parliament over the last week, and a number of people have come across to support me, which is fabulous, and I'm hoping to win more support today. But the key job for the next Prime Minister will be to reunite the party.
Reunification is Theresa May's big pitch. The vast majority of the Cabinet and an overwhelming number of MPs supported the Home Secretary in Thursday's ballot. Her message is that she will negotiate hard in Europe whilst also working towards unity within the ranks.
This vote shows that the Conservative Party can come together and that under my leadership it will. Now, I've always said there should be a proper contest. Now is the time for me and my team to take my case out to the party members in the country. And that case is based on three things. Because we need proven leadership to negotiate the best deal for leaving the European Union, to unite our party and our country, and to make Britain a country that works not for the privileged few, but for everyone.
But would a new leader who was in the Remain camp compromise the referendum negotiations?
Ian Duncan Smith said it needs to be someone who is optimistic and enthusiastic about Brexit. That's not Theresa May.
Look, it's about getting the job done for the country. This is a moment where we have to get it right. We've got an uneasy business community facing change that it's not totally comfortable with. We've got a political process that needs to be stabilised. We need a proper system of negotiation. We need to do all the groundwork. We need to get this right for the future of our country. If ever there was a moment where we have to have sound, experienced leadership, this is now. This is not the moment to try and plough a new path with an inexperienced leader who's not sat around the top table.
Theresa May has been the longest-serving Home Secretary of modern times, 6 years in the job. But with experience comes baggage. Expect Leadsom campaigners to highlight the Home Office failure to reduce immigration to the promised tens of thousands. Mrs May is used to a fight and has gained a reputation as a straight talker, once telling the Conservatives they were seen as the nasty party and telling the Police Federation that they displayed contempt for the public and would have to get used to cuts.
Let's stop pretending the police are being picked on.
In an unguarded moment, the former Chancellor Ken Clarke summed up his views to former Foreign Secretary Sir Malcolm Rifkin, caught on a Sky camera.
Teresa's a bloody difficult woman, but you and I work for Margaret Thatcher. She's been in the Home Office far too long, so I only know in detail what her views are on the Home Office. She doesn't know much about foreign affairs.
Although some argue the Home Secretary has gained the relevant experience.
Theresa May is the person who negotiated the treaty change with Jordan to get Abu Qatada extradited. That's something no other Home Secretary managed to do. So she's got tangible experience in the international community, working with other European countries in the Council of Ministers. This is experience that will be invaluable to us in the months ahead.
Her rival, Andrea Leadsom, understands the workings of the EU. She founded Fresh Start, a Conservative group set up to look at the EU's impact on the UK. But how would she deal with an international crisis, such as Russia encroaching into more neighbouring territories?
Security is absolutely the key first duty of any government, and my overall approach to Putin would be to absolutely tell him he needs to abide by international law.
Where she may not have experience of high office, Mrs Leadsom has emphasised her previous senior position in the financial services industry, her management of money and people, evidence for her suitability to be Prime Minister. But a former colleague at the investment management firm Invesco Perpetual questioned aspects of her CV.
She didn't manage any teams, she didn't manage any money. And she certainly was not a fund manager. If you put yourself up for Prime Minister and you make a big deal about your CV, you better make sure that your CV accurately reflects what you actually did and doesn't allow people who don't perhaps know the sort of ins and outs of the fund management world, allowed to draw a conclusion from a title, Senior Investment Officer, which could one say could be misleading?
Robert Stevens contacted Mrs Leadsom and asked her to change the claims on Wikipedia and Who's Who. But her backers say these challenges to her backstory are cosmetic.
Actually, I think this is all a lot of nonsense, really. I talked to her about it, and I know what her CV is. I've known what she's done in the past. She has been responsible for looking after investments into all sorts of different companies.
They may both be steely characters, but both women have been praised for their compassion. Andrea Leadsom, who suffered from postnatal depression, was trustee and now patron of a charity helping babies and their mothers.
Andrea is absolutely through and through incredibly passionate about this area of work. She goes completely above and beyond the call of duty in terms of what she's done to further the agenda for parents and their babies really in the first 1,001 days of their life.
Theresa May is recognised by the families of the victims of Hillsborough as the Home Secretary who was willing to listen.
From the minute I went into the room, I got this very warmth from her, that she was a person, she was compassionate, she was a human being. And I just got these lovely, lovely vibes from her. And everything that she promised us, she fulfilled. And that's the very first time we've ever had that from anybody in government.
Perhaps the real test for any MP is how well they're respected in their constituencies. Theresa May has been the MP here in Maidenhead for nearly 20 years.
If you look at Maidenhead, clearly it's quite a wealthy area, but it's not stockbroker belt. I wouldn't describe it as that. And Theresa, a number of years back, was run to just over a 3,000 majority, and now she's built that up to over a 29,000 majority here in Maidenhead, one of the safest seats in the country, which I think is an enormous testament to her hard work and her dedication. In fact, the people in Maidenhead, they recognise how much she's done for the community here.
Lived in this borough all my life.
The woman who had to deal with Occupy tents outside St Paul's Cathedral as Home Secretary currently has tents outside of her town hall.
You've got a picture of Theresa May here, look.
Yeah, Judas.
Maidenhead has a homeless problem, and with Mrs May's approval, the council has allowed two of them, Jason and Pete, to camp on their property until they're housed.
Theresa May at the moment is more interested in getting the keys to number 10 than she is with her own constituency that are homeless.
You've met her?
Yes, about 2 years ago.
Yeah, what did you make of her?
She better than the devil, you know. So what do you call it? This homeless thing isn't going to go away. And now she does make it to Prime Minister, then she got a national problem, hasn't she? We need politicians where we can talk to. And I think she is good for Maidenhead.
Despite being Home Secretary, most people we spoke to said Mrs May was highly visible and active in the constituency. And like Pete and Jason, they're divided on whether she's right to be Prime Minister.
She's a calming, uniting influence.
Yeah.
And certainly has the experience in government.
I think she has the ability to lead, and that's very important.
It's Conservative members who will decide, and we met one, Gloria Hill, at the Bear Pub.
Theresa May or Andrea Leadsom? You'd go Theresa May.
I don't know. That's a hard one. I'm going to go with Andrea Leadsom. What's the name?
Andrea Leadsom.
Yes, Leadsom.
You'd go with Andrea Leadsom?
I think so.
You don't know much about her, though, do you?
No.
But you'd still rather go for her as leader, Prime Minister?
It's a big, big jump, isn't it?
From Maidenhead, we jump to Towcester, where Andrea Leadsom holds her constituency surgeries. She's been MP for South Northampton since 2010, and despite becoming Energy Minister last year, seems to have maintained a high profile in the town.
I've met her. I don't know much about her just recently, but I always thought she was pretty on board for the people. Yeah, she used to come to our parish council meetings and came over very well.
I think she's got her ear on the ground. She's very involved with the community, but she also understands what the real issues are. And I think she also put up a wonderful campaign.
She was a Leave, wasn't she? And I think she'd be a good candidate. We can't have a Remain in charge of this country because we won't get what we really want.
So, Tory members must choose between experience and a Brexiteer. They can't have both. 199 MPs voted for Theresa May. Andrea Leadsom got just 84. But members sometimes make different choices. They have 3 months to decide who wins the battle for number 10. Jason Farrell, Sky News.